أَوَلَمْ يَرَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا أَنَّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ كَانَتَا رَتْقًا فَفَتَقْنَاهُمَا وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ أَفَلَا يُؤْمِنُونَ.
Have those who disbelieved not considered that the heavens and the earth were a joined entity, and we separated them and made from water every living thing? Then will they not believe?
سنريهم آياتنا في الآفاق وفي أنفسهم حتى يتبين لهم أنه الحق أولم يكف بربك أنه على كل شيء شهيد.
We will show them our signs in the horizons and within themselves until it becomes clear to them that it is the truth. But is it not sufficient concerning your Lord that He is over all things a witness?
Inna alhamdulillah nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem amma ba'd fa'a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem bismillahir rahmanir rahim. سنريهم آياتنا في الآفاق وفي أنفسهم حتى يتبين لهم أنه الحق أولم يكف بربك أنه على كل شيء شهيد. We will show them our signs in the horizons and within themselves until it becomes clear to them that it is the truth. But is it not sufficient concerning your Lord that He is over all things a witness? Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul 'uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. It is indeed an honor for me to share with you my thoughts about modern scientific discoveries which lead to give the evidence for existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The reason I thought of organizing this lecture is that sometimes young boys come to me and ask me questions like, how do you know God exists? Is there really a creator out there? Some even insist for scientific proofs also. Now these are very deep and old questions which goes back to the beginning of life, a beginning of humanity, I must say. From Islamic perspective, we can flip the question and ask them, what type of proof you need? You expect me to go around and find proofs for existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whereas each and everything around us is screaming for existence of a creator, existence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Fact of the matter is that, and we all know, that every single effect must have a cause which has caused it. So around us we always see cause and effect relationships taking place, and it will be foolish to assume that everything around us simply came to be without a predetermination, without any knowledge, without any planning, and without any powerful entity which was able to create it. Sometimes I reply with the question, what logical and rational proof you need that would be more than the fact that you are a logical and rational creation, that you can see, you can hear, and you can think. Here it will be appropriate to ponder on the ayat which I recited in the beginning, and that is ayat number 53 of Surah Fussilat, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, سنريهم آياتنا في الآفاق وفي أنفسهم حتى يتبين لهم أنه الحق أَوَلَمْ يَكْفِ بِرَبِّكَ أَنَّهُ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ شَهِيدٌ. Soon we will show them our signs in the horizons and within themselves, until it becomes clear to them that it is the truth. But is it not sufficient concerning your Lord that He is over all things a witness? This ayat also gives us a food for thought, that some people can be easily guided by looking at the creation around them. However, there are some types of people who may ask for scientific proofs. Let's see another ayat, which is ayat number 105 of Surah Yusuf. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. وَكَأَيٍّ مِّنْ آيَاتٍ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ يَمُرُّونَ عَلَيْهَا وَهُمْ عَنْهَا مُعْرِضُونَ. How many are the miracles or signs they keep on passing by, and they do not acknowledge those signs? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that signs are there, but your ability to recognize these signs is blinded by your own arrogance. You can also flip the question and ask the person, what will possibly convince you that there is a creator? What more evidence do you need? Some may say that I would like God to speak to me, who had been asking this thing in past. People say, why God does not speak to me? Now very honestly, let us assume, if you genuinely hear a voice, like for example, I am God, believe in me, would you believe? You will be first be surprised, but then you would say that I am illusioned, I am hearing voices these days, or I am daydreaming. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Quran, chapter number 15, Surah Al-Hijr, ayat number 14 and 15. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. وَلَوْ فَتَحْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ بَابًا مِّنَ السَّمَاءِ فَظَلُّوا فِيهِ يَعْرُجُونَ لَقَالُوا إِنَّمَا سُكِّرَتْ أَبْصَارُنَا بَلْ نَحْنُ قَوْمٌ مَسْحُورُونَ. And even if we open to them a gate from the heaven and they continued to rise, they would say that our eyes have only been dazzled, rather we are a people affected by magic. So there are people, if you give them any evidence, they will tend to reject it. At the end of the day, you cannot argue with a guy who insists on closing his eyes and shutting his ears and stopping all evidence which is approaching to his heart. Story of Iblis itself tells us that when someone wants to reject, he or she will reject. Convincing that person through logic will not help. Who has decided the answer, himself or herself? So for such people, another alternative way to prove existence of Allah is through discoveries of modern science, and that is the topic of today's presentation. For this, I am trying to base my discussion with Quran and science relevance. Here I will particularly mention two possible approaches. First approach is from Quran to science, that is, first narrate Quran or recite Quran, Quranic Ayats, and then correlate it with science. This approach is to be adopted while speaking to Muslims because they already believe in Quran. However, for non-Muslims, the best approach would be to first mention scientific laws and theories and then explain correlation with Quran. So, as you can see in the clip here, in case of non-Muslims, the first approach from Quran to science is not recommended, and the other approach from science to Quran is to be adopted. Now, from this point till the end of my talk, I will inshallah follow second approach. Now, first of all, I will give you a brief explanation about scientific discovery about creation of universe. First of all, Newton. Newton was the father of science. He had given us 4 big physical laws. He gave us standard model of planetary system. He said sun is in the middle and all other 9 planets are revolving around, including the earth. From Newton's time until the early 20th century, there was a belief that the universe had infinite dimensions, that it had existed since eternity and that it would continue to exist forever. According to this view is called static universe model, and according to this view, the universe has neither a beginning and nor an end. This view denied the existence of creator, because it assumed that the universe is a constant, stable and unchanging collection of matter. This model remained in scientific beliefs for 200 years and no one could challenge its fundamental laws until Einstein's era is in 20th century, who proved that the earlier model was incorrect. Einstein presented theory of relativity and theory of special relativity. He made his own model that this cosmos or this whole universe, what is visible to us, this is very big. He said that Newtonian laws were limited to the planetary system, and when we apply Newtonian laws to the universe, these laws fail. But still he made a mistake and he admitted this mistake in 1929. Now comes the third prominent scientist, Edwin Hubble. If you see in the slide, you will agree that Edwin Hubble and Einstein were in the same time frame. In 1929, at the California Mount Wilson Observatory, an American astronomer, his name is Edwin Hubble, he made one of the greatest discovery in the history of astronomy. While he observed the stars with a big telescope, he found that the light emitted by them was shifted to the red end of the spectrum, and this shift was more pronounced in case of those stars which were far away from the earth. This discovery had a substantial effect on the world of science, because according to the standard rules of physics, the spectra of light beam moving away from the point of observation tends towards red region. So Hubble's observations showed that the light from stars tend towards the red region. This means that the stars are constantly moving away from us. Hubble made another very important discovery. The stars and galaxies move away not only from us but also from one another. The only conclusion that can be made about a universe where everything moves away from everything else is that the universe is constantly expanding. Hubble invited Einstein to show that is this universe operates according to your theories or mine. Actually, Einstein had said that the distances between galaxies are fixed and everything is moving as per set speed pattern. Before I go ahead, I will just mention, just for your information, that there are about 400 billion galaxies in the universe, and each galaxy has about more than 100 billion stars, and each star is bigger about 1,000 times than our sun, and you can imagine how big our universe is. So Hubble explained to Einstein with the help of redshift that all galaxies are continuously going away from each other, and how you can say that these are fixed and not going away from each other. These are not only moving but their velocity is or speeds, they are also increasing with passage of time. So, kind of acceleration is there, element of acceleration is there. So, to better understand this, I always give the example of a balloon. This universe can be thought of as the surface of a balloon which is being blown up. Just as the points on the surface of a balloon moves apart from each other as the balloon is inflated, so likewise the object in space move apart from each other as the universe keeps expanding. In fact, this had been theoretically discovered even earlier. This Albert Einstein, who is considered one of the most renowned scientists of the century, of the last century, he had originally concluded during his work on the general relativity that his equations show that the universe could not be static. However, he artificially altered his equations by adding a constant to produce a static model of the universe, because that was the dominant idea of the time. Einstein was later identified this act as the greatest mistake of his career. Now, just for the interest of you, I will just try to explain redshift, because this is very important phenomena. It will help us understand many things as we follow. Now, you may be familiar with Doppler shift. This redshift is the optical equivalent of Doppler shift. Now, what is Doppler shift or Doppler effect? When a sound on a moving object moves towards or away from us, the pitch of the sound changes. The usual example is the siren we hear on an ambulance or a police car. The tone is higher as the vehicle moves towards us, and it drops, the pitch drops to a new tone as the vehicle moves away. So, the velocity of the vehicle determines this tone. The same principle occurs in case of radars. There are some type of radar which have a moving target identification. So, Doppler, they are also called Doppler radars, because the movement of the object towards or away from the radar tells us that whether it is moving because of the frequency shift. Now, likewise here in case of light also same principle is being noticed, because this red shift and or sometimes blue shift is the other contrast. Red shift or blue shift, it is the electromagnetic equivalent of Doppler shift or Doppler effect. This yellowish light from a source which is original yellow light, that changes if the object is rapidly going away, will have a longer wavelength, and longer wavelength means less frequency, and it will appear a reddish, it will show reddish light. Or generally you can also define that anything that adds energy to the light will increase its frequency, shorten its wavelength, and make it a blue shift. And anything that removes energy from light, it reduces its frequency, it extends its wavelength, and red shift occurs. Relative motion is one way to do this, and gravity is also one way to do this kind of shift. In other words, red shift is caused by light moving away from a viewer, and the blue shift is caused by the light moving towards the viewer. If you look at the figure, the red color on the right side represent lower frequency. Remember, red is lower frequency. That is why we say the term infrared for the frequency is even lower than red. Likewise, violet is high frequency, that is why anything above violet is ultraviolet. But frequency and wavelength are inversely related, so therefore red shift means lowering the frequency and increase of wavelength. Now, this is very important to understand this phenomena of red shift. That is why I am emphasizing a bit more on it. Most galaxies have red shifts, and it gives us an idea that they are moving away from us not only away from us, but also they are moving away from each other, and hence the universe is expanding.
Now it is really amazing to note that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has already mentioned this fact in Holy Quran about 14 centuries before, chapter 51, Surah Al-Hadid, ayat number 47. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَالسَّمَاءَ بَنَيْنَاهَا بِأَيْدٍ وَإِنَّا لَمُوسِعُونَ. With the power we constructed the heaven, and indeed we are able to extend the vastness of space. Subhanallah.
So according to this theory, these galaxies are moving and their speed is also increasing with the passage of time. So going back to that figure where Hubble is showing his discoveries to Einstein, Einstein, once he realized that the galaxies are moving and their speeds are also increasing with the passage of time, then after meeting him, Einstein wrote in his book that he had been making a mistake throughout his life, for which he was very sorry about it. So because of these experiments, a bubble of universe came in front of the world. Then people started asking questions that if these galaxies are going away from each other, then where was this cosmos long time before? What was the center from where this universe came? From where this universe started to expand? Then whole attention of scientists was focused onto this point. After 1930 and later decades, new equipments and computers were surfaced on the horizons of the world, and knowledge overall also increased. Also NASA started sending the satellites to space, and that was also the reason for the increase of knowledge. Now, I will try to explain you Big Bang theory in short. Now we have just seen the universe expands. Now the fact that the universe expands, what importance it gives to the existence of the universe. Now expansion of universe means that it originated from a single point. Now the calculation shows that the single point, which was having everything in it, had zero volume but infinite density, because you know the density is mass per unit volume. So if anything which has zero volume, mass per unit volume, so volume is in the denominator, so anything divided by 0 is infinity. So of course that becomes an infinite density with 0 volume. So the universe had existed because of explosion of that single point which had 0 volume. The science can define the concept of nothingness, which is beyond the limits of human comprehension, and science says that it is a point with 0 volume. In truth, a point with no volume means nothingness. The universe has come into being from nothingness. In other words, it was created. If you look at the bubble which has been drawn on the discovery that these galaxies are going away from each other, scientists explored that where was this universe long time before. There has to be a point from where this must have originated. So a center point was emerged from where this universe started to expand, and today we are 13.7 billion years away from the center. Now this great fact, which was discovered by modern physics only towards the end of last century, was announced to us in the Quran 14 centuries ago in chapter 6, Surah Al-An'am, ayat number 101. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Badius samawati wal ard anna yakunu lahu waladun walam takul lahu sahiba wa khalaqa kulla shay'in wa huwa bi kulli shay'in alim. He is the originator of the heavens and the earth. How can he have children when he has no wife? He created all things and he is the all knowers of everything. When we compare this statement of this verse with the Big Bang theory, we see that there is a striking resemblance. Now, expansion of universe is one of the most important pieces of evidence that the universe was created out of nothing, and it was not discovered by science until the 20th century, and Allah has informed us of this reality in Quran, which was revealed 1400 years ago. So we have just mentioned that the universe is expanding and a bubble of universe came in front of the world. So when it was backtracked and we all came to know that it shrank to one point. You see, there is a certain velocity, there is a certain acceleration with which the whole galaxies and stars are moving away from each other. If we try to backtrack, we know the acceleration and we go back in the time frame, then obviously we will go into a point where the Big Bang took place, and that is the point where everything met with each other. So these billions of galaxies or whatever the universe is comprised of was concentrated at one point, which was hyper dense and which was very, very dense and very small in size. So we have just seen the universe has come into being from nothingness. In other words, it was created. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned this fact in the Quran, chapter 21, Al-Anbiya, ayat number 30. Avalam yarallazina kafaru anna samawati wal arda kanata ratkan fafataknahuma وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ أَفَلَا يُؤْمِنُونَ. First of all, there is a word samawati wal ard. Avalam yara allazina kafaru anna samawati wal ard. Whenever Quran mentions about samawati wal ard, it is actually referring to the whole universe, which contains 400 billion galaxies. The translation of this ayah is very important because it is going to be the basic of our Big Bang theory. Have those who disbelieve not considered that the heavens and the earth, that means the universe, that the heavens and the earth or the universe were a joint entity and we separated them. The word fafataknahuma is very important too. It is the basis of whole Big Bang theory. And I will explain it later also. And we separated them and made from water everything. Then will they not believe? I will repeat the ayat. Avalam yarallazina kafaru annas samawati wal arda kanata ratkan. These non-Muslim, don't they see that the universe was one point? Kanata ratkan means one point. And fafataknahuma means explosion or make pieces. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says very clearly that this universe was what together at one point, but we made it to split into pieces. Now science has endorsed this and the maximum Nobel Prize have been awarded to theories related to Big Bang, and many people have now started believing that Quran mentions Big Bang, and this theory has been discovered by science recently. Now there is a Professor George Abel from the University of California. He also said that this evidence shows that the universe came from nothing and it originated billions of years before, and he said there is no choice but to accept the Big Bang theory. with this Big Bang's victory, the concept of eternal matter that was leading to materialistic philosophy was thrown into the trash. So now the next question came, then what was there before the Big Bang, and what was the power that brought this universe into being? With this big explosion, what was there which was non-existence? Because this universe came from nothing, so what was there before it? Okay, now many scientists have admitted the role of Almighty Creator who created this universe, because they used to now think that this Creator must be the one who has created matter, space and time, but He is independent from all these domains. Another very famous scientist, an astrophysics scientist, Mr. Ross, he has said that if time beginning is concurrent with the beginning of the universe, if the time and the universe started with the same point, then the cause of this universe must be some entity operating in a time dimension which is completely independent of these domains, and he has to be pre-existent to the time dimension, because this conclusion is very important to us if you want to understand that who God is and who or what God is not. It tells us that God is not the universe itself, because some people tend to believe that perhaps universe is God. No, God is not the universe itself, and nor is God contained within the universe. This matter, space and time are all created by the Almighty Creator, who is independent of all these notions. This Creator is Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, who is the Lord of heavens and the earth. Now let's proceed forward. So we have just recited an ayah, chapter 21, Al-Anbiya, ayat number 31. Ayat number 30. Awalam yarallazina kafaru anna samawati wal arda kanata ratkan fafataknahuma waj'alna min al-ma'i kulla shay'in hayyin afala yu'minun. Now after this ayat, another worth mentioning ayah, that is Surah Al-Hadid, was-samaa banaynaha bi'aydin wa inna lamusi'un, that we have made this, we have constructed this heaven and we are able to extend it, and we are extending it every time. So finally, when the Big Bang theory was finally endorsed, then the world saw this Newsweek magazine of July 1998 with a caption on the title, "Science finds God." Today science finds God. From this reference, I will now quote many scientists who were non-Muslims, rather non-religious people, but Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala made them say these statements that you will be surprised yourselves at how these statements came from them. Newton, Isaac Newton, he said, "The most beautiful system of the sun, planets and comets could only proceed from the counsel and dominion of an intelligent and powerful being." Now remember the word mighty, we will see in the context of Quranic Ayats also. Now Einstein said, "In the view of such harmony in the cosmos, which I with my limited human mind am able to recognize, there are yet people who say there is no God." The word harmony means that nothing is striking with each other, everything is in harmony with each other. So you can take the word harmony, there has to be some intelligent power behind this. So take this word intelligent and keep it into your mind, and then we will correlate it with the Quranic Ayat. Dr. Ross, he said God is not the universe itself, nor is God contained within the universe. The Creator is transcendent, operating beyond the dimensional limits of the universe. So now you note the word transcendent. The word transcendent means that not belonging to the dimensions of these humans, it is not in part of our cosmos. Then is the Charles Darwin. He said the impossibility of conceiving that this grand and wondrous universe with our conscious selves arose through chance. It did not come by chance. It seems to me the chief argument for the existence of God. The word aware watching is to be noted, and it will be correlated with the Quran later on. So, but by the way, most of you know Darwin, Charles Darwin, who offered evolution theory. This theory is based on atheism, that human were evolved from the monkeys. Now these are the slide is showing chapter 57 Al-Hadid, ayats number verses 1 to 6, and if you see ayat number 3, huwa al-awwalu wal-akhiru wal-zahiru wal-batinu, then is huwa ma'akum aina ma kuntum, and the word omnipotent or powerful was used by Newton, aware, knowing was used by Darwin, mighty was used by Newton, and intelligence was used by Einstein, and watching was used by Darwin. So the equivalent of these words are, if you can see now, Al-Qadir is like omnipotent, Al-Alim is aware, Al-Aziz is mighty, Al-Hakim is intelligent, and Al-Basir is watching. Now going back to these first 6 verses or ayat of Surah chapter 57 Al-Hadid, see Al-Aziz is there, Al-Hakim is there, Qadir is there, Alim is there, Basir is there. So these all definitions of creator are found in Surah Al-Hadid, first 4 ayat, because these 4 ayat describe creation of universe. So without mentioning these Allah's names, how the contents of this surah can be considered complete? So we have just seen that matter, space and time are created by Almighty Creator, who is independent of all these, and who is the Awwal, meaning he existed even before Big Bang, being a cause of this activity, and Akhir means that he will be the only one existing after Big Crunch, or when everyone will be destroyed. This creator is Allah, who is the Lord of the heavens and the earth. Now the most important point of my talk comes in, which will be focused on wa huwa ma'akum aina ma kuntum. So I would request all to please pay particular attention, since we are coming closer to the scientific evidence. For understanding this scientific evidence, I will first go to the world of cause and effect. Just to make you understand, if this room is cool, then there has to be a cause associated with it. There are some air conditioners working. So effect will follow its cause, and mind you, cause should be older than effect. If you look at this slide, this dominion blocks, if the first car does not fall, then these blocks will not start falling. Cause has to be old or awwal. Remember that ayat, huwa al-awwalu. The world's biggest effect is Big Bang. How it is possible that there is no associated cause? Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not only the owner of this cause, but also awwal, our predecessor. the word awwal should be written, word awwal should be focused very clearly. Now we have discussed awwal. Question arises, how can he be akhir? Because the ayat says awwalu wal akhiru. So how can be Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, how can be akhir? Now look at this model on the time scale from 0 time to 28 billion years have been shown approximately, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows exactly how long will this universe will survive. Now if you look at the left side of this slide, Big Bang is on the left, and on the right side there is a big crunch. Big crunch, by the way, will happen when the energy will start to decrease. In the middle there will be full energy. Now Nobel Prizes have been awarded to on Big Bang theories, but Big Crunch awards are yet to be awarded because search is still in progress. From Islamic perspective, it is not possible to exactly define the Big Crunch. The Big Crunch meaning that when the universe is going to finish. So in Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already says about it. Chapter number 33, Surah is Ashab, ayat number 63. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Yas'alukan nasu anis sa'ah, qul innama ilmuha indallah, wa ma yudrika la'alla sa'ata takunu qariba. People ask you concerning the hour or the day of judgment. Say, the knowledge of it is with Allah only. What do you know? It may be that the day of judgment is very near. So we have just recited that ayah where the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned the big crunch, the time frame which we don't know. Now see this red zone on this slide. This is a zone of pure energy, and this is very important to understand. At the time of Big Bang, the expansion took place in some of the dots within this red region. In fact, this is a field of colossal amount of pure energy which is very dangerous to internal inhabitants or internal field. If nothing is kept between this pure energy and the expansion field, then it will become very dangerous. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that I have erected 7 strong roofs for the protection of this universe so that you can live in. The word samawat is always comes with 7. Now just see this area on the left of this red zone before Big Bang. Allah existed before Big Bang and Allah will exist after Big Crunch. Allah is above also and under this zone also. He is everywhere, right or left. Now this picture is not 3D, otherwise you could have imagined this red zone is all around us. If you study M theory, then you will come to know that this is by the way Edward Witten's theory, who still has to be awarded Nobel Prize. He said that this outer field is in layers, exactly like water. And the Big Bang happened in one of these layers, in one of the particles of the water. It has so much of energy, that 400 billion galaxies were formed and they came into existence. Now just focus on Prophet Musa's example. As per my study, a particle of pure energy from this red zone was dropped on mountain Tur, and this is the same red zone where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's arsh or throne is established. In Holy Quran there is ayat also, chapter number 11, Hud, and ayat number 7. وَهُوَ الَّذِي خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضَ فِي سِتَّةِ أَيَّامٍ وَكَانَ عَرْشُهُ عَلَى الْمَاءِ. So your Rabb's arsh, your Allah's arsh, God arsh or throne, that was on the water. Now if you look at this diagram, it tells us the complete story of the universe. Now you can see the Big Bang, you can see the Big Bang on the extreme left side and the big crunch is on the extreme right. In between there are regions marked now, and maximum expansion and turnaround is in the little big circle. Before defining this big crunch, I will request your attention to one more very important ayat of Holy Quran, and that is chapter number 21, Surah Al-Anbiya, ayat number 104. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Yawma natwis samaa qatan yassajil kutub kama badana awwala khalqin nu'idu wa'adan alayna inna kunna fa'ilin. Now it is ayat number 104 of Surah Al-Anbiya. The day when we will fold the heaven like the folding of a written sheet for the records, as we begin the first creation, we will repeat it. That is a promise binding upon us. Indeed, we will do it. Now, just see the slide. The ayat and the picture have been placed together. It implies that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would convert the universe in the same state as it was before long time ago. In case of Big Bang, Allah did it, and in case of Big Crunch, it will be done again. You can see the Big Bang on the extreme left hand side and the Big Crunch on the extreme right. In between, there are regions marked now and maximum expansion and turnaround. Now, this slide is one more to understand. If you see on the left side of the slide, there is a spot from where the expansion took place, and these all small white particles, these represent galaxies. Now comes the actual problem, how something was created from this zero volume, out of nothing. This was the biggest question of science. Nothingness can generate only nothingness. How it generated the big galaxies and the present day universe which you see around. For this, I will just explain you about this phenomena mathematically, little mathematics. If you see on the slide, is 0 equal to 1? No, it is not equal to 1. 0 represent nothingness and 1 represent something, or 0 represent the time before Big Bang and 1 represent the time frame where we are living, we see the universe around. Are they equal? No. So, they are not equal. Now, how to make this equation correct? If we add 1 minus 1, then this equation becomes correct. So, now the black one represent matter and the red minus 1 represent antimatter. That means if there is a matter, then there has to be an antimatter associated with it. From here people learned a very important issue of pairs. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Quran says, chapter 36, Surah Yasin, ayat number 36. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Subhanallazi khalaqal azwaja kullaha mimma tunbitul ardu wa min anfusihim wa mimma la ya'lamun. Glory is to Him who has created all the pairs of that which the earth produces, as well as of their own humankind, male and female, and of that which they don't know yet. The word وَمِمَّا لَا يَعْلَمُونَ is very, very, very important here. We are talking about the pairs, and the previous slide we have just seen matter and antimatter, that is a pair. Like male and female are similar but with little different properties, like matter and antimatter have same properties but with different charges. So the وَمِمَّا لَا يَعْلَمُونَ is very important to understand. 1400 years before, how could somebody knew about these pairs, this matter, the antimatter? The people were not aware about the earth, people were not aware about the galaxies. So how could they knew about these pairs, matter or antimatter? So that's why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in this ayat, وَمِمَّا لَا يَعْلَمُونَ. Now in 2015, this has been endorsed. It's a scientific fact now that for every matter there is an antimatter. Whatever amount of matter exists in the universe, exactly same amount of antimatter exists. At this time of this year of 2015, anti-hydrogen of hydrogen was made, which was kept in a CERN lab at Geneva. So after looking at the time of 2015 when the anti-hydrogen was made, let's look at this slide, which is now white is matter and black represent antimatter, and both are equal. Same year in 2015, the scientists managed to keep anti-hydrogen alive for 15 minutes. Before I go forward, it's better to explain little bit about antimatter and matter, because it will help us understand how the element of existence comes in. The scientists believe that every particle of matter should have an antimatter. But after the Big Bang, most of the antimatter disappeared, leaving behind the portion of matter that constitute the universe where we live in today. Now, what happened to the antimatter, the rest of the antimatter? What happened to that antimatter which is not visible to us? That is one of the greatest puzzles in physics. Now, astronomers search for antimatter in space, but it is hard to come by on Earth. So, in order to study it, in order to study its qualities, scientists have to make it themselves. Scientists have to make antimatter themselves, and because antimatter annihilates or destroys the flash of energy when it interacts with the regular matter. I mean, in plain words, whenever the antimatter comes in contact with matter, they both destroy each other. So, storing becomes a problem. It becomes the biggest challenge, how to store antimatter. Now, before I tell you how this storage problem has been addressed, please understand this figure. Hydrogen has an anti-hydrogen with it. In hydrogen, electron revolves in the orbit, but in anti-hydrogen, positron revolves. In hydrogen, proton is in the nucleus, but in anti-hydrogen, anti-proton is in the nucleus. If the scientists kept it in a container, then it would collide with the container's walls and would destroy, because it is colliding with matter. So, a special magnetism was used to keep it at center, and a record was formulated by keeping it for 16 minutes. Scientists who conducted experiment at the CERN lab in Switzerland have found that beside producing opposite charges, matter and antimatter are completely identical. And now a study published in Nature magazine confirms that our universe should never have come into existence. They have found out that the universe where we are living should not have existed at all. Now, future scientists or the present scientists, the modern scientists, they want to use even higher precision measurements of the proton and antiproton properties to find an answer to this question. But so far, all the observations have revealed a complete symmetry between matter and antimatter. So, the universe should not exist. Many scientists are now saying that the universe should not have existed at the time of Big Bang, because the matter and antimatter both were equal. So, why they were not destroyed at that time? Now, the biggest question now arises that in such a big universe, we have such a big matter, and likewise we have the same size antimatter, and why it is not colliding with each other? This means that there must be something that scientists do not yet know about that, which is stopping the destruction of both the oppositely charged twin particles at the time when the universe was born. Now you will understand the situation. I've just said that one entity, scientists have agreed that there is one entity which is stopping both the positive and negative, or matter and antimatter, to come and collide and destroy each other. What is that entity? That has to be no one else than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is stopping the matter and antimatter to annihilate or to destroy each other. As I just told you, the scientists started to understand that matter and antimatter particles are there, but they are not destroying each other. Now, the biggest research in this field was done by a British scientist. His name is Peter Higgs. He got Nobel Prize in 2013. Now, as per this theory, this whole universe has a field which is made up of small particles called Higgs boson. This field has given meaning to everything. It can best be understood. Take the example of a swimming pool and assume that it is empty, no water inside. So, if a thin man is walking in the empty swimming pool and a fat man is also walking, they do not face any resistance. But if the swimming pool is full of water, then thin man will have to face less resistance, and the fat man will have to face more resistance. Another example which will make things very clear: if you are walking in a snow, in the snowfall, after the snowfall, a lot of snow accumulates on the roads. So, if you are walking through that snow, which is very soft, you can pass through, but you accumulate some snow onto your body. So, that snow gets attached to any person while moving in snow. So, in the similar case, if you go back to the swimming pool example, where the thin man was facing less resistance and the fat man is facing more resistance. So, but when there was no water, there was no resistance. So, water is the reason of your mass. So, in the theory of Big Bang, it was initially difficult to include particles that had mass. So, some scientists looked around to see what would happen if all particles had zero mass. The theory worked, but it did not represent reality. Then Peter Higgs and his colleagues came up with a fascinating way to handle this thing. They said, what if an electron and all the basic particles were indeed massless, they had no mass, but that contradicts the reality. We can measure the mass of the electron, but they knew that the apparent mass of the electron changes when it moves through a crystal like silicon or quartz. So, maybe the mass of the electron is an illusion. Electron behaves as if they have mass, but they do not really. It is just that they are moving through a crystal like substance. This crystal like substance was eventually called the Higgs field. It fills all of the space, which is why the particles behave as if they have mass. So, Higgs boson said that there should be a field which gives meaning to every mass. Like in case of swimming pool example, when there was no water, thin man was passing easily, both thin man and fat man was passing easily because there was no water. But when there was water, thin man had to face less resistance and the fat man had to face more resistance. So, the water was giving the meaning to the everything. Water was the reason for their mass. So, in case of this Higgs boson field, this field is giving meaning to every mass. So, this field evenly exists inside and outside and around whole universe. So, interestingly, now we are getting very close to the evidence. If you now pay attention, Higgs boson, the scientist who discovered all this, he suggested that all particles had no mass initially. Just after the Big Bang, they had no mass. As the universe cooled and the temperature fell below a critical value, an invisible force field, which became commonly known as the Higgs field, was formed together with the particles. This is called Higgs boson. The field is there throughout the cosmos, and any particle that interacts with this field is given a mass via the Higgs boson. More they interact with the Higgs field, the heavier they become, whereas particles that never interact, they are left with no mass at all. So, you see in this slide that such a field exists everywhere and everything is touching it. Anything, whether it is electron or proton, it is touching this field. So, after this discovery, people all over the world, especially in the Canada, America, Western world, they were very happy, because once they knew that the God's particle has been discovered, this field has made connection with everything, and the biggest job of this field that it does is, it does not allow matter and antimatter to annihilate or to destroy each other. If you Google God's particle, then you will understand the whole picture. Now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has very clearly said, chapter 35, Surah Fatir, ayat number 41, إن الله يمسك السماوات والأرض أن تزولا ولئن زالتا إن أمسكهما من أحد من بعده إنه كان حليما غفورا. Verily, Allah grasps the heaven and the earth, lest they should move away from their places. And if they were to move away from their places, there is not one that could grasp them after him. Truly, he is ever most forbearing of forgiving. So, this is chapter 35, Surah Fatir, ayat number 41. The word samawat wal ard represent, I have told before also, this represent universe. Inna Allah yumsiku samawat wal ard means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala holds the universe. So, I would request all of you to pay particular attention, since we are coming very close to the scientific evidence which we have mentioned before. So, let us look at this ayah again, chapter 35, Surah Fatir, ayat number 41. Inna Allah yumsiku samawati wal ard an tazula. The meaning is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is holding the universe. Samawati wal ard, as I have told before, that it represents universe. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is holding the universe. So, if one morning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decides to stop holding this, then that would turn out to be the end of the world, day of judgment. So, if we summarize this whole discussion, it can be concluded that the only power stopping the destruction of matter and antimatter is no power other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Huwa al-awwalu wal-akhiru wal-zahiru wal-batinu wa huwa bi kulli shay'in alim. Or in other words, even at subatomic level, the only power stopping the oppositely charged ion to destroy each other is no power other than Allah. Some people can be easily guided by looking at the creations around them, or talking about the logic or about the rational ways. However, other types of person may ask for scientific proofs. So, if you look at that ayah which I recited before, that was Surah Fussilat, ayat number 53. Sanurihim ayatina fil afaqi wa fi anfusihim hatta yatabayyana lahum annahu al-haq. Avalam yakfi bi rabbika annahu ala kulli shay'in shaheed. So, for these people, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that we will show them our signs in the horizons and within themselves until it becomes clear to them that it is the truth. But is it not sufficient concerning your Lord that He is over all things a witness? In other words, is it not sufficient proof of your truthfulness that nothing whatsoever can be hidden from the God? Now at the end, if we again look at chapter 57, Surah Al-Hadid, ayat number 4. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Huwa allazi khalaqa as-samawati wal arda fi sittati ayyamin thumma istawa 'ala al-'arsh. Ya'lamu ma yaliju fil ardi wa ma yakhruju minha wa ma yanzilu minas samaa'i wa ma ya'ruju fiha wa huwa ma'akum ayna ma kuntum wallahu bima ta'maluna basir. Now just focus on these words. Wa huwa ma'akum ayna ma kuntum. He is with you wherever you go or wherever you may be. So if Allah decides one day to stop being with you for some reason, then that would turn out to be the end of the world. So we can summarize the whole discussion that the only power stopping the destruction of matter and antimatter is no power other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So brothers and sisters in Islam, I will conclude my discussion with one verse from the Quran, and that is chapter 57, Surah Al-Hadid, ayat number 4. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Huwa allazi khalaqa as-samawati wal arda fi sittati ayyamin thumma istawa 'ala al-'arsh. Ya'lamu ma yaliju fil ard wa ma yakhruju minha wa ma yanzilu minas samaa'i wa ma ya'ruju fiha wa huwa ma'akum ayna ma kuntum wallahu bima ta'maluna basir. The word وَهُوَ مَعَكُمْ أَيْنَمَا كُنْتُمْ is very important, which means that He is with you wherever you will go. So if we summarize the whole discussion, it can be concluded that the only power stopping the destruction of matter and antimatter is no power other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. With this, I thank you all. If you have any questions, I am ready to answer, as long as they are within the context of this lecture. Thank you again.
هو الأول والآخر والظاهر والباطن وهو بكل شيء عليم. هو الذي خلق السماوات والأرض في 6 أيام ثم استوى على العرش يعلم ما يلج في الأرض وما يخرج منها وما ينزل من السماء وما يعرج فيها وهو معكم أينما كنتم والله بما تعملون بصير.